Do we really have free speech in Canada? So I have a friend who's a real estate agent. She works for an organization, and she recently posted some comments about a very tragic incident that took place, which was political. However, it was just condolences. And she was contacted immediately by her employer to say, listen, you need to take that down immediately. And she did take it down. Now, does free speech mean you can say whatever you want at all times without any repercussions whatsoever? I know that this seems to be all the rage these days, but we want to dig into this a little more. And I'm doing that today with Dave Connor from Red Friday Talks. Dave, how you doing today, bud?
Great to see you, Randy. Always a pleasure to spend some time with you.
Yeah, always a pleasure, man. Listen, I wonder if you could share your thoughts because you certainly have some insightful thoughts and comments on this
Yeah,
subject of
well, I
free
mean,
speech.
one of the things as Canadians that we trip over is there's a concept of free speech as part of the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights of the U.S. Constitution. And it's pretty clear about what that's about. And then we also, in our own Canadian Charter, have something very similar about free speech. But it's really important to remember that language is so you can it's so that you can criticize your government. It's so that you can demonstrate against bad or choices you disagree with your government. It was never so that you could say whatever you want anywhere in either place. You can't, for example, slander people. You can't libel people, right? You can't incite riots. And in Canada, there was a Holocaust denier who was here for quite a long time, actually, and he was imprisoned for hate speech because he spouted a lot of rubbish and had a little publishing company, and he ended up being deported back to Germany, where he was from. That's all, in my view, perfectly reasonable. And if you are employed by an organization and you are viewed as part of their brand, or it is revealed that through your actions you work there, you have no free speech when it comes to saying or doing stupid stuff in public. There was a guy a few years ago. There was a little spurt of people running up behind female reporters and shouting something vulgar into her shot, and the guys that were doing it thought it was funny as hell. This one guy, and this is right here in Toronto area. This one guy ran up and did that and thought it was a great laugh. And he worked for, I think, one of the major telecoms, and he got fired. And he and his pals all believed that, well, you can't fire me for something I did off the job. But if it damaged the brand, if it does something that the employer believes to be contrary to their, not employment contract, but their SOGs for how folks conduct themselves, they can and do fire folks for that.
Okay, listen, you covered a lot there, and there's something that I kind of want to touch on. You mentioned hate speech and an incident where there was an individual who, paid the ultimate price and ultimately lost his job, but also got sent back to his home country
Hmm.
for hate speech.
Hmm.
Is hate speech free speech? Is hate speech covered under free speech?
Yeah, that's really difficult because pretty much hate is kind of in the eye of the receiver, right? It's like the folks that coordinated the stuff in Ottawa a couple of summers ago with all the trucks honking and stuff like that. The things that they were charged with was mischief by talking to people and trying to get them to behave in a fashion that was contrary to the public good. So, and hate, it's kind of like nuisance, right? One of the things that happens from my experience in fire is you can't have, like, for the most part, in most cities, you can't have bonfires in your backyard. But you can have a cooking fire in the backyard, like you can prepare food, but it can't be what's called a nuisance. Well, what's
Okay,
a
so
nuisance,
let's
right? If your neighbor can smell smoke, is it a nuisance? Does it interfere with his capacity to enjoy his space, or is it just something he don't like you doing?
okay, so let's talk about the most recent case, Jimmy Kimmel. Okay,
Yeah.
he said a few things and was suspended indefinitely, whatever that means. Ultimately, he's brought back. He works for a network, And the network has the right, as we kind of stated earlier, to control their message. When I started all my Instagram accounts and my Twitter or X, I did that as a police officer,
Hmm.
and I was identified as a police officer on my accounts. Now, whether I choose to admit it or not, whatever I say or do, whatever I post online, affects my police service. Even if I say in the description that, listen, this is my comments do not reflect my employer, well, gee whiz.
Yeah.
Depending on what I say,
Gee whiz,
it's of
exactly.
course it's going to reflect the employer. But let me just say this: uh, the police service, just like this real estate uh, agent that I brought up a minute ago, they don't own your accounts. The police service you work for does not own that account. Instagram owns your account.
Mm.
X owns that account. Facebook owns that account. The police
And
service
they
does
have,
not own that.
and those media outlets have their own code of conduct that you have to stay inside of.
And that's kind of where, listen, all the rage these days has to do with hate speech, free speech and hate speech, and how far can you take free speech? Listen, some people will call the police in the past because there were individuals who called them names, and maybe, listen, they were nasty names and they said nasty things to them, but there actually wasn't any law broken, right? I mean, you can't, there's no laws against somebody being a prick. Do you know what I
No,
mean?
no, exactly,
But
exactly. Or
yeah.
yeah, I think that I mean, there's another example that people are still hot about. About 6 or 7 years ago, the Canadian icon Don Cherry was released from his employment, and I think it was with the CBC, which is a national, a Canadian network with an agenda. And let's just touch on that for a minute. The very right wing media outlets in the United States, one starts with F, they have an agenda. They have a message that is what they think they want to spin the world their own way. They don't show the stuff that's contrary to that, and they encourage the right wing rhetoric. So Don Cherry said something unfortunate about new Canadians wearing poppies. I think I'm pretty sure I know what he meant to say, but the way he framed it was kind of inappropriate, and a lot of people lost their minds, and he was, disconnected from his employer for it. That same free speech argument came up then. But, if you're under an employer who has any kind of brand, and as I said, please, lawyer friends, get a hold of us. They can protect that, and one of the ways they do that is control who they employ.
What he said back then, which got him in trouble, seems to be what a lot of people are saying now with no repercussions whatsoever. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, listen,
Yeah, no, you
the
don't want to be the
scales,
first to say something topical, that's for sure.
well, yeah, for sure.
Here's one of the things. I mean, the psychologist whose name escapes me, but he refused to use the gender identification language because he believed that that was compelled speech. And that's a whole separate thing, right? Is being required to, what's his name? Oh, it doesn't really matter. But
His
that's a
name's
whole
Jordan
separate,
Peterson.
that's the
Jordan
guy.
Peterson.
Peterson, yeah. And if you watch him, not everything he says is lunacy. He's a really interesting, well-educated guy, but he digs in on some stuff that you go, wow, I wonder why he took that little turn, right? But yeah, Peterson, and he wouldn't use they or the other gender identifiers, refused to because he believed it was compelled speech. So, I think it's a healthy dialogue to have. I think as Canadians, we're we're just a little nicer, I think.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
And listen, I would love to dig into this deeper. We will in the future. I'm going to tag Jordan Peterson in this. Jordan, if you're watching this, we want to interview you. We don't have any money to offer you. We'd
No.
like to interview you for free. And listen, it doesn't matter whether you lean left or right. We want to interview you, anybody. Dave, listen, it's a great conversation. Any parting words for folks?
No, one of the things that, another thing I'd love to talk about is people have opinions about bail and who should be on bail and what should be the consequences for breaking bail and all that stuff about how do we incarcerate people and why. But I'd like to talk a little bit about that because people are feeling unsafe because, there was a case in Toronto where a couple of guys were trying to steal a fellow's car, and he came out and ran him off with a gun, and he ended up getting charged. So I'd love to have a better conversation about that too.
Bail reform, prison reform, education reform, mental health reform, you
Yeah,
name it.
yeah.
We need
Get
it.
that wrapped up in
And
a week.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Listen, Dave, thanks for taking the time to chat today. We'll see you later, bud.
Great to see you.